The Empress watches the sky. The golden throne room was silent. High above the burning sands of the Zereth Empire, the Empress sat alone, her crown glowing under soft green lights. Tall windows stretched to the ceiling. From there, she could see her twin suns and the quiet stars beyond. She sipped her dark drink and listened to the wind outside. All reports said the humans were weak. Their planet was small, their politics were chaotic, their technology outdated. That's what her generals had told her. She believed them. Until now. A soft beep echoed through the chamber. "Highness," said a voice from the floor. It came from a round disc glowing with red light. A war officer was speaking through it. His voice was shaking. The Empress frowned. "Why do you interrupt? Something has entered our outer system." The voice said, We are not sure what." Her eyes narrowed. "Is it another pirate ship? A lost trader?" "No, Empress, it's a fleet." Now she stood. "A fleet, yes, human ships. Over 200 of them, supercarriers." The drink slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. The Empress didn't speak. She slowly walked toward the window, her long robe trailing behind her. She looked up at the sky. At first, it seemed empty. Then the light dimmed. Something was moving above her world. Massive shadows crossed the stars. Her eyes widened. From orbit, hundreds of gigantic ships hovered in silence. Each one was dark, cold, and shaped like a metal fortress. Blue light glowed from the engines beneath them, and they weren't moving fast. They weren't running. They were arriving. The Empress whispered, "No transmission?" "None," said the officer. "They've said nothing. They've just come." Another voice joined in. From a different screen, a general. "Empress, the ships are not matching any known design. Each one is larger than our dreadnoughts. We tried to scan them, but their systems are blocked. We can't even see inside." She turned sharply. "You told me the humans had no fleet." "They didn't," the general said. We think they built these in secret." Her voice turned cold. 200 supercarriers in secret?" No one answered. She stepped back to her throne, her face now pale. She remembered the last time she heard about Earth. The humans had refused to bow to the High Council. They had walked out of negotiations silent, no threats, no answers. That was 50 years ago. And now they had returned with force. Another alert rang out. "Highness," shouted a voice. "One of the human carriers has entered low orbit over Zereth Prime." The walls of the throne room shook softly. She looked up again. Now the sky wasn't just dark. It was blocked. A single ship hovered directly above her palace. It was so large it covered the sun. The land beneath it turned cold. Its lights blinked slowly, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Still, no message. No warning. Just presence. The Empress felt something she hadn't felt in centuries. Fear. She turned to her guards. "Prepare the royal fleet." "But Empress, what if they are not here to attack?" one asked. She raised her voice. "Then they will speak to me, but we must be ready. No one brings this much power without purpose." Suddenly, another officer appeared on a screen. "Highness, our outer patrol ships have all gone silent. We believe the humans disabled them without firing a shot." The Empress sat down slowly. "What do they want?" she whispered to herself. Her generals spoke, argued, panicked. She didn't hear them. She stared out the window, eyes locked on the massive human ship floating silently above her world. They weren't here for war. At least not yet. They were showing something, a message without words. "This is what we built while you laughed. This is what silence looks like." She clenched her fists. They had waited too long. Now Earth had arrived, and it was her empire that looked small. The secrets of the supercarrier. Empress could not sleep. Her world had gone quiet, but her mind was filled with noise. She had seen the human fleet with her own eyes, hundreds of supercarriers in orbit, floating like mountains in the sky, silent, watching, waiting. She sat in her war chamber with her generals. Maps glowed across the table, defense numbers, planetary shields, ship positions. None of it mattered anymore. "Where did these ships come from?" she asked again. No one answered. So she turned to her Minister of Intelligence. Well, the minister cleared his throat. "We've begun digging through old records. The humans disappeared from most interstellar politics over 50 years ago. No trade, no alliances, no shared tech, because they were hiding." The Empress said. "Yes." The minister replied, "But not running, building." He tapped the table. A small projection lit up. It showed hidden shipyards, massive ones floating in the empty black near collapsed stars. While the galaxy thought Earth was asleep, they were constructing these carriers in untraceable space. No signals, no beacons, even their supply routes were cloaked. A general scoffed. "Impossible, you can't hide 200 ships that size." The minister looked him in the eye. "Apparently, humans can." The Empress leaned forward. "How did they pay for all this? How did they get the power?" Another voice answered, an old one. "It came from the shadows of the room. The humans didn't build them with money," said the old admiral. "They built them with memory." Everyone turned. Admiral Kale had served during the Earth rebellions decades ago. He was the only one who had faced human fleets in combat and lived. Earth remembers things we try to forget, Kale said quietly. They've been invaded, betrayed, bombed, and yet they survived. He paused. That kind of pain becomes something else. It becomes purpose. The room fell silent. The Empress stared at the floating image of one of the supercarriers. It was enormous, longer than her capital city, layers of armor, no weak points. Engine trails burning a steady blue. Each ship carries enough firepower to destroy a planet, Kale said, but they haven't fired a single shot. Why? The Empress asked. What are they waiting for? Kale looked at her with tired eyes. They want you to ask that question. The Empress stood and walked toward the balcony from her tower. She could still see the shape of the lead supercarrier above. It hadn't moved, but that made it more terrifying. These ships were not like the fleets of other species. No banners, no taunts, no weak spots. Only stillness. And silence. Suddenly, a message arrived. The officer at the console gasped. It's from Earth, he said. Encrypted, simple format. Play it, the Empress ordered. The screen lit up. A human appeared, calm, clean uniform. Phase unreadable. He spoke just one sentence. We are here to be seen. Then the screen went dark. No threats, no demands, just a statement. To be seen? The Empress said aloud. What does that mean? Admiral Kale stepped forward. It means they don't need to speak. They don't need to fire. Their presence is the message. She turned sharply. I will not be intimidated by silence. But no one answered. The fear had already begun to spread. Across the Empire, panic grew. Colonies locked down. Ships refused to launch. Civilian trade routes shut down. Everyone could see the fleet above them. And no one knew what it wanted. That's what made it worse. The Empress returned to her chamber alone. She looked at old recordings. Footage of humans during their darkest wars, cities burning, ships crashing, children fighting to protect their homes. But through all the pain, she saw something else. Endurance. Humans didn't survive because they were lucky. They survived because they planned, prepared, endured. And now they had turned that endurance into something else. Into power. The Empress stared at the stars. She finally understood. The humans didn't bring a fleet to start a war. They brought it to end all future wars before they even began. With silence. With strength. With presence. Humanity's silent strategized Empress sat alone in her dark chamber. No lights, no music, no servants. Only the soft hum of her palace's systems and the memory of that one message. We are here to be seen. She had ruled for 300 years. Her empire had defeated rebellions, broken alliances, and crushed rivals. But nothing in her long reign felt as heavy as the silence above her head. 200 human supercarriers still hovered in orbit. Not one had moved, not one had spoken. Again, she called for her historian. A short, gray-scaled creature named Brix entered the room. He bowed deeply. You summoned me, Great Empress? Tell me, she said coldly. What do we truly know about the humans? Brix looked surprised. You already have access to all intelligence reports. I don't want data, she snapped. I want truth. Brix stood quietly for a moment, then began. Humans are strange. They adapt faster than any known species. They learn from failure, from pain. They record every scar as if it were a lesson. He took a breath. And they never forget. The Empress narrowed her eyes. Explain. Brix walked to a console and tapped it. Old footage appeared. Humans fighting in ice, in deserts, in space, always outnumbered, always surviving. These images are not from their victories, Brix said. They are from the wars they lost. But every loss made them stronger, smarter. He pointed at a battlefield on the screen. They built their empire not by conquering, but by preparing for what others might do. The Empress leaned forward. Then this fleet, she said, is not a weapon. No, Brix said, it's a signal. A signal of what? Brix stared at the screen. That Earth remembers everything. The Empress sat back slowly. So that was it. Humans weren't waiting to attack. They were waiting to be understood. She called for her top strategist. A tall warrior named Veller entered the room with a deep scowl. The people are scared, he said. Before she could speak, they see the ships and think this is the end. The Empress nodded. Do you agree? Veller hesitated. Double quotes. No, if the humans wanted to destroy us, they could have done it days ago. Then why don't they speak? She asked. Veller answered carefully. Because speaking makes them smaller. She raised an eyebrow. Explain. He stepped closer. Every other empire shouts, shows off, threatens, but humans, they just appear. That fleet says one thing louder than any message ever could. What does it say? She asked. Veller looked up at the sky. We're not here to fight, but we're already ready if you are. The Empress turned away. Something inside her shifted. This wasn't fear anymore. It was respect, wrapped in uncertainty. She remembered how her advisors had laughed when Earth left the Intergalactic Council. How they mocked human silence, how they called Earth a world of forgotten warriors. But Earth hadn't forgotten anything, they had simply stepped away. To build. To remember. To prepare. She turned back to Veller. Call my personal guard. I want to address the Empire. Veller's eyes widened. A speech, yes, she said, but not to boast, not to threaten. I will speak about humility. He looked shocked. You the Empress wish to show humility? She smiled bitterly. Just enough to survive. The broadcast went live moments later. Every screen across the Empire turned on. The Empress appeared. No crown, no background music, no royal effects, just her face, calm, sharp. My people, she began, you see the sky above us, and you feel fear. That is natural, but let me tell you something more important than fear. She leaned forward. Respect the silence. She paused. Those ships above us are not here to destroy. They are here to remind all of us that even peace must be protected, that even calm must be earned. Her eyes locked onto the camera. We forgot that. Earth did not. The feed ended. Across the stars, her words echoed, and far above, in orbit, a single human ship turned slightly, just enough to show it was listening, but still, no reply. No words. Only strategy, only silence, and that was louder than any weapon. The first contact. Empress stood on the high platform of her command tower, staring up at the sky. The human fleet had remained motionless for 6 days. 200 supercarriers hovered in perfect formation above her empire, quiet as shadows. They had made no moves, no threats, no attacks, but the pressure was growing across the empire. Civilians whispered in fear, soldiers asked for orders, governors demanded answers, and still, the humans said nothing. Until now, a soft chime echoed across her palace. Transmission incoming, said the communication officer from the human flagship. The Empress froze. She had waited for this moment. Dread and curiosity twisted inside her chest. Put it through, she ordered. The great screen at the front of the chamber lit up. The signal was crystal clear. A human appeared, calm, standing tall, wearing a dark gray uniform without medals or marks. His face was unreadable, like carved stone. He spoke only one sentence: we are not here to bow. Silence followed. No further explanation. No list of demands. The Empress stepped forward slowly. I am Empress Zirela, ruler of 42 worlds. You appear above my skies with firepower never seen before, and you send a message of defiance? The human did not flinch. We are here, he said, because the galaxy forgot who we are. Then remind us, the Empress snapped. The human's expression did not change. We do not seek war, but we carry its memory, and we do not need permission to protect ourselves. Behind him, on the human ship's bridge, Zirela saw her reflection. In the glass, a queen facing something far older than royalty. Resolve, he continued, for decades. Your council mocked our silence. You called Earth weak, but while you spoke, we prepared. The Empress stared. Prepared for what? The man didn't blink. For the day someone like you would test our silence. A faint alarm rang inside her palace. Her eyes darted to her advisor. Your Majesty, their entire fleet just powered up. Weapon systems are online. Zirela raised her hand. Do not engage. She turned back to the human. Is this a threat? The human paused, then shook his head. This is clarity. On the screen, the camera zoomed out. Now she saw it. All 200 supercarriers, weapons glowing, engines pulsing, aligned with mathematical precision, but they didn't fire. They just stood there, like guardians. Like judges. You call this peace? She said quietly. We call this protection, he replied. You may call it a warning. Then the screen went black. No signal. Just silence. The Empress took a shaky breath. Her chest felt tight. She looked at her generals. Even they looked pale now. What do we do? One asked softly. No one spoke. Zirela turned toward her private balcony and walked outside. The wind touched her face. But it wasn't the wind that gave her chills. It was the understanding. The humans didn't threaten her. They didn't need to. Their calm voice, their stillness, their readiness, it all spoke louder than any weapon. She looked up. One of the ships, the largest, slowly turned in orbit, not toward her world, but away. It was showing its back. Without fear, they trusted her not to strike. That was power. She returned to the command chamber. Prepare a response, she said. The generals looked up. A military one? Asked Admiral Kale. No, she said. A diplomatic one. They were stunned. You wish to speak to them? I do, but Empress, if we appear weak, she cut him off. We already appear weak. The only way to show strength now is to listen. Her hand hovered over the console. She began to record a message. Humans of Earth, she said slowly. You have shown us your silence. Now hear ours. She paused. Then added, we do not seek to bow, but we do wish to understand. She stopped recording. Send it, she ordered, across space. The message flew from her world to the lead human ship. They waited. Seconds passed. Then a reply came, just text, displayed in bold white letters across the PAL's screen. We listen, for now, no threats. No promises. Just possibility. For the first time in days, the Empress exhaled deeply. The humans had spoken, and the galaxy would never forget it. The mistaketh message had been sent, the humans had replied, and for a moment, peace hung in the air like a fragile glass inside the palace. The Empress walked the halls in silence. Her eyes were tired, her mind restless, but she felt something new. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to prevent war. Until it was. Far away, on the edge of her empire, a small alien cruiser was patrolling Sector 9. The captain of that ship, Commander Jaxer, was young and proud. He had not seen what the Empress had seen. He had not stood beneath the shadow of the human fleet. He only saw one thing on his screen, a known human probe, Class 0, unarmed, orbiting Moon. He snorted. Scare tactics, he said to his crew. They send toy ships and hope we panic. He ordered his gunners to fire. A small blast shot through space and hit the human probe. It exploded into silent dust. The crew laughed. No alarms, no screams, just sparks in the black, but Jaxer didn't. No, that probe was not just a sensor. It was a signal node. It was a part of the network that kept the human fleet's formation balanced. And more importantly, it was a test, back in orbit. Above the Empress's world, the humans noticed a red icon blinked on their command screens. The human fleet commander gave a single order: response protocol, limited strike, non-lethal. Earth didn't scream. Earth didn't warn. Earth simply moved. It happened in seconds. From orbit, 3 human carriers powered up silently. Their systems focused on Commander Jaxer's ship from across half a solar system. The alien cruiser didn't even have time to react. A pulse of blue light shot from the sky. No sound. No flames. But inside the alien ship every system shut down. Engines dead, weapons frozen. Shields gone. Commander Jaxer fell to the floor as the lights flickered out. He stared at the blinking screen. It read, system disabled, status neutralized, not destroyed, not damaged. Just removed. Back on the Empress's planet, alarms screamed across the command center. Her generals rushed in. Highness, a human strike has disabled one of our patrol ships in Sector 9. The Empress turned sharply. Destroyed? No. Disabled entirely. No casualties. Her heart dropped. They acted without emotion, without rage. Without delay, and they chose not to kill. That was worse. Because it meant they were in full control. She sent an urgent message to the human fleet. A live channel opened instantly. The same human officer appeared. Explain this action, the Empress demanded. We were seeking peace. The human's eyes were calm. One of your ships attacked our asset, we responded. You disabled a military cruiser, she snapped. He nodded slowly and left every life intact. The Empress stared at him. You didn't even warn us, he answered. We did. 6 days of silence was our warning. The room fell cold. The human continued. We will not fire first, but we will never be struck twice. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And if my people had died? He paused. For the first time, something dark flickered in his eyes. Then we would not be speaking now. The screen turned off. The Empress sat down slowly, her breath shallow. Around her, no one moved. Finally, her aide spoke. What do we do now? She looked at the stars above and gave the only answer that made sense. We listen. Asterisk. The answer comes to Latid's skies above the Empire were still filled with giants. 200 human supercarriers remained in orbit, glowing faintly like moons. Unmoving but watching, the Empress sat alone in the Grand Throne Hall, staring at the silent screen. Around her, no one spoke. The room was full of people, but it felt like space. Empty, cold, waiting. She had sent apologies, warnings, promises, and the humans had said nothing. They didn't need to. Their silence had become a wall, unbreakable. A voice finally broke the stillness. Highness, whispered her aide, the fleet is turning. She stood quickly and rushed to the balcony. High above, the human ships began to move slow, smooth, and in perfect formation. The massive fleet, still fully armed, started to rotate. Not toward her world. Away. She stared. They're leaving, she asked quietly. No one answered. No one understood. Another officer rushed in. Empress, they just transmitted a final message. Show me, she said. The screen lit up. Text only, cold and clear. We were seen. That was enough. The message vanished, and just like that, the most powerful fleet the galaxy had ever witnessed began its silent exit. No speech. No threat. No sound. Only presence and departure. The Empress felt her chest tighten. She had spoken too late, asked too late, understood too late. She watched the humans vanish into the stars, one by one. Like ghosts that had never been there, her generals stood behind her in silence. One of them finally spoke. Why didn't they destroy us? She answered slowly. Because they didn't need to. And then she said something no one expected. They never came here to fight. Everyone turned toward her. They came to remind us that silence is not weakness, that calm is not surrender, that patience is not peace. She walked across the hall and sat upon her throne. Our mistake was believing Earth needed permission to matter. That silence meant they had given up. She looked up, but silence was their weapon. And we just saw what it can do. The next day, the galaxy changed. News of the human fleet spread fast. Every empire, every trading post, every hidden moon heard the same story. The humans had returned, but not to conquer, to demonstrate. To show the galaxy that Earth had not forgotten, they had not forgiven, they had only prepared. And now, every ruler across the stars thought twice before calling humans primitive or small. Because 200 silent supercarriers had spoken louder than any army ever could, back on Earth. No celebration was held. No headlines. No fireworks, only the quiet docking of ships. And the return of officers to their homes. They didn't call it a victory, they didn't call it anything, they just returned to readiness. Because Earth knew the galaxy would forget again, and when it did, the sky would remind them.